All right, let's get right into it. We're not just talking about any old job today. We're talking about, well, what's arguably the most exclusive and toughest career climb on the entire planet. Forget becoming a CEO or a president. Today, we're breaking down the decades-long strategic journey to the very, very top of a global institution, becoming the Pope.
And it all starts with this number, 1.3 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. That's your starting applicant pool. That's every single Catholic faithful across the globe. This is the massive foundation of the pyramid.
So that's the big question, right? How in the world does one person, starting from a pool that massive, climb all the way to the top to become the single supreme leader? Well, it's a journey of insane dedication, a little bit of strategic maneuvering, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of luck.
To really get it, you've got to see it as the world's steepest pyramid. You start at the bottom with those 1.3 billion faithful. The very first cut is massive. It brings you down to about 400,000 priests, your local parish managers. From there, it gets even crazier. Just 5,000 bishops, who are basically the regional CEOs. And then you get to the inner circle, only about 200 cardinals, the global board of directors. And at the very, very top, there's just one.
So let's start where everyone has to start. Step 1, the foundation. And let me be clear, there are absolutely no shortcuts here. You must become a priest. It's the mandatory ticket to even get into the game.
And this first step, it's a huge commitment. We're talking 7 to 9 years of intense study in a seminary. And you're not just reading scripture either. You're earning degrees in philosophy and theology, becoming an expert in history and psychology. It's a complete intellectual marathon before the real race even kicks off.
Oh, and this first step also comes with two of the biggest personal hurdles you can imagine, the unbreakable vows. First up, celibacy, a lifelong promise to live without getting married or having a family of your own. And second, a vow of absolute obedience to your superiors in the church. I mean, these two things alone shape the entire rest of your life. Okay, so once you're a priest, the game totally changes. You're not just a spiritual guide anymore. You're on the executive track. This is where you start climbing that corporate ladder, trying to get from local manager all the way up to a member of the global board.
And this path, well, it takes decades. First, you have to be an absolute rock star locally. Prove you're a great manager. That gets you noticed by the current bishops who, get this, secretly send a list of their top guys to the Vatican every 3 years. If you make that list and the Pope gives the okay, boom, you're a bishop, the CEO of an entire region. If you succeed there, you might get the final big promotion before the top job. The Pope himself appoints you as a cardinal, and you're officially on the board of directors.
So when you become a cardinal, they give you this symbolic red hat. The color is meant to show you're willing to die for your faith. But let's be real. Beyond the symbolism, it gives you the single most important privilege in this whole process, a vote. And where do you cast that vote? Right here, in the conclave. The name itself comes from the Latin for with a key, which tells you everything you need to know. This isn't just a meeting, it's a total, complete lockdown.
And that brings us to the final vote, the main event, the conclave. It is the ultimate showdown, a high-stakes mix of deep spiritual reflection and, honestly, some pretty intense political maneuvering, all happening behind locked doors.
And the rules for this lockdown are just incredible. Think about this. Every cardinal under the age of 80 gets locked inside the Sistine Chapel. No phones, no internet, absolutely zero contact with the outside world. The whole point is to make sure the decision is made with prayer, free from any outside pressure.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that public campaigning is a huge no-no. You can't give speeches, you can't run ads. Instead, all the influence peddling happens quietly, behind the scenes, in conversations over dinner. The real goal is to prove you're a bridge builder, someone who can bring the different factions, the conservatives, the progressives, together.
And to win, this is the magic number you need. 2/3, a supermajority. And that's so important because it means no single group can just ram their candidate through. You have to build a really broad base of support.
So, after all the votes are counted, if one person has finally reached that 2/3 majority, the head cardinal walks up to them and asks one single life-changing question in Latin. Accepto? Do you accept?
If the answer is yes, well, everything changes in a heartbeat. The very first thing you do is choose a new name, like Francis or Benedict. This isn't just a formality, it symbolizes a complete transformation. You aren't who you were 5 minutes ago.
You now embody the office of the Pope.
Then they take the ballots and they burn them with a special chemical, and the result is this incredibly iconic signal. White smoke pouring out of the Sistine Chapel chimney, telling the thousands of people waiting outside and the rest of the world that a new pope has been chosen.
Okay, so we've covered the official process, but what does it really take to win? Let's dive into the unofficial playbook, the secrets for any aspiring pontiff out there.
All right, here are the pro tips. First, you gotta master languages. Italian is the working language of the Vatican, and Latin is essential. They're non-negotiable, and Spanish is a massive plus. Second, be a moderate. Guys with extreme views almost never get that 2/3 vote. Third, timing is everything. The sweet spot is between 65 and 75 years old. Not so young you'll rule for 30 years, but not so old you lack the energy. And finally, and this is a big one, keep your records squeaky clean. Every single part of your life is going to be put under a microscope.
When it all comes down to it, it's really about this. The journey is a tiny fraction of a percent luck and pretty much 100% pure, grinding, relentless persistence over an entire lifetime of service and sacrifice.
And that kind of brings us to the final thought, doesn't it? After you've survived that incredible climb, after you've made it to the top of the world's steepest pyramid to become one of the most powerful leaders on Earth, the real question isn't just about how you got there. It's what kind of leader would the world need you to be?